this is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR podcast. Music City would be rocking for the whole weekend as NASCAR would roll into town. All three series would be set for action at Nashville Superspeedway. Storylines going into the weekend: Truck Series. After Corey Heim dominated Charlotte, can he continue that in Nashville? Or can Kyle Busch, back in the truck seat, take the win? Xfinity, after a wild overtime finish, can Justin Allgaier get the job done? Cup Series, after the longest race of the year, the heavy hitters of Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell would be poised. Or could Ross Chastain go back-to-back and grab a win at his team, Trackhouse Racing's home track? Interviews with Xfinity driver Mason Massey and truck driver Tyler Tomassi. Plus, discussions with Dave, Fast Davey's bets, predictions for Michigan, and so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Now for the Truck Series recap. Trucks would get the party in Nashville started Friday. There would be wet weather Friday afternoon. Qualifying would get rained out, so the starting order would be based on points. Corey Heim would be on the pole with the win from last week, followed by Caden Honeycutt, making up the front row. NASCAR would let the trucks have their 50-minute practice session. Corey Heim and Ty Majeski would be the fastest in that. A caution would fly a couple laps in the race for fluid on the track. Heim and Corey Day would lead on the first restart. Day would battle Heim, but Heim would hold the first spot. Kyle Busch was given a restart penalty, heading to the rear early. By lap 20, Lane Riggs would pass Corey Heim for the front spot. Riggs would battle lap traffic towards the end of the stage, but he would prevail and Lane Riggs would win the first stage. After leaving the pits the earliest, Raja Carruth and Corey Heim would restart the pack for the second stage. Raja would get the jump and take the lead, but it wouldn't last long as Jack Wood goes spinning, collecting the 63 of Ogata as well. Carruth and Corey Heim restart. Heim would get a push from Riggs and would go back to the lead. Heim will put a gap in between him and Lane Riggs in second. Corey Heim will go on to win the second stage. After the pit stops, Raja Carruth and Corey Heim would restart the pack to green for the third and final stage. Carruth would get the jump on Heim and go out to the lead. With 25 laps to go, Raja Carruth would have over a second lead on Corey Heim, who is in the P2 spot. 15 to go. Carruth would still have the top spot. Could Heim reel him in? 5 laps to go. Carruth would be up front, but Heim would be hot on his bumper. Carruth would be consistent and hit his marks and hold off Corey Heim. This would be Raja's second career win at the Truck Series level. Congrats to the 71 team. Now for trivia time. This week's question is, with Ross Chastain's win last weekend from the 40th starting position, it was the first time a driver from the 40th spot won since this Hall of Fame driver did it at the Richmond Fairgrounds in 1969. Name that driver. Answer coming at the end. Now for the Xfinity Series recap. Xfinity would get the Saturday night special going in Nashville. William Sawalich would be on the pole after being the fastest in qualifying, followed by Austin Hill, making up the front row. Once the green flag would drop, Sawalich would get the jump and take the lead. Justin Allgaier would get past Austin Hill for the second spot. With about 10 to go in the first stage, the first yellow would fly when Kyle Sieg and Parker Retzlaff would get into an incident. Most would pit. Austin Hill and William Sawalich would be the fastest off pit road. Daniel Dye and Brendan Jones would stay out and lead the pack back to green. Starting on the second row, Jeremy Clemens would get the jump and the lead. It wouldn't last long, though. Justin Allgaier on the fresher tires would get past Clemens. Corey Day would wreck on the last lap of the first stage. Allgaier would win the first stage under yellow. Justin Allgaier and Austin Hill restart for stage 2. Allgaier would get the jump and be out front. Yellow flag would fly 16 laps into the second stage when Blaine Perkins would go spinning into the infield grass. Again, Allgaier and Hill on the restart, and just like the previous one, Allgaier would be leading. Sheldon Creed would take over the second spot, followed by Eric Amarola in third. Justin Allgaier will go on to win the second stage. Sheldon Creed and Justin Allgaier will lead the field to start the final stage, but chaos would occur on the restart, collecting Christian Eckes, Josh Williams, Ryan Ellis, Brendan Jones, and several others. Creed and Allgaier would restart again. The 00 of Creed would get the jump. Connor Zilisch would pass Allgaier for second. Zilisch would be hunting Creed down for the lead. With 68 laps to go, Zilisch would take the front spot. 54 to go, the sixth caution of the day would fly for pole winner William Sawalich, who would go spinning in the grass on the backstretch. Brendan Jones and Connor Zilisch would restart. Allgaier on the fresher tires would jump back to the top spot, followed by Zilisch. As the laps counted down, Connor Zilisch would be trying to reel in his Junior Motorsports teammate of Allgaier. 20 laps to go, Allgaier would still be in the lead. And he would start to put a gap in between him and Zilisch. With 10 to go, Allgaier would still be up front. Zilisch wouldn't be able to come close, the rest of the stage would stay green, and the race would be won by Justin Allgaier. What a disciplined race ran by Justin. Congratulations to him and his team. Now the first of our 2 driver interviews we have for this episode, Xfinity driver Mason Massey. Here's what Mason had to say. Next guest we bring onto the show is driver of the 45 Chevy for Alpha Prime Racing at the NASCAR Xfinity level, Mason Massey. Welcome to the show, Mason. Appreciate you joining.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is your first year with Alpha Prime. Had Parker on the show twice earlier this year. Sounds like you guys are building something over there. How has that process been?
It's a long process for sure. I went to Alpha Prime because I was able to see the potential that they have, and I know Tommy Joe really well, and I know that he wants to be a big team and he wants to run good. And so I had the same aspirations, so I kind of thought it'd be a good fit. So I went over there, and I'm in the third car, the 45 car, and we've had some good runs. You know, we've had to work some kinks out of it. Had to change crew chiefs a couple times, which is always a hard thing to deal with in the shop and at the racetrack and everything. And had some good runs. Like we went to Bristol, and we had a hard time in the first stage there, but after the first stage, man, we were actually running top 15 lap times the whole race after that. So I was really happy with that, and that kind of showed potential for us. So we'll keep building on it. It was a hard time at Nashville. That was a rough weekend, but I know we'll keep working on it, and we'll be good for Pocono.
Yeah, 10-4. Appreciate you touching on those changes. Before we get into Nashville, you had your best finish of the year, coming 21st in Texas at the beginning of May. You started 32nd and worked your way to the 26th spot going into the final stage. How did you navigate those two overtimes to secure that P21 finish? And how were you feeling leaving the track?
Yeah, so Texas is always interesting because obviously they've had some big wrecks and had some crazy races there in the past. And I knew going into it that it was going to be wild, and we had to be there at the end. And honestly, we had a couple things off in the front end there as well that we had to work on, and I was just doing what I could. trying to salvage a good day out of it. And had a decent car on the short run, but the longer that we went, it just kept getting worse and worse for me. So I knew what we had, and I knew what the goal was. It was to bring it home in one piece and to finish the race and just do what I can. And working through the field, I mean, I've always felt pretty good at Texas. I've always felt like I get around there good. So I was kind of using some of the things I know to do there through 1 and 2, almost kind of running a diamond and able to get a run on guys off of 2 and get by them. And the restarts at the end obviously were nuts, and we had a hard time getting back in the lead lap. Just kept having some bad breaks there. I felt like we salvaged what we could out of it, though, and ended up being a decent day for us.
Gotcha. Appreciate those details. Yeah, the watching on TV, those restarts at the end seem nuts. I appreciate the insight from the cockpit there. You mentioned Nashville. You were there last Saturday. You started your day being 31st fastest in practice, qualifying 38th. What did you learn about the car before the green flag?
Yeah, I was really disappointed in qualifying. Obviously, we were just way off the pace, but we just had the nose hitting the ground, and it would just kind of make the car not be able to turn. So I went off into turn 1 for qualifying, and I knew we had an issue right there. So I had to kind of fix that, and actually led over to the first stage. We had the same issue going on there, and we fell way behind the pack. But after that, we loaded the front end up with some Packer, got it off the ground. So after that, we was able to work on it, and ended up making it better throughout the race. I was able to work my way up a little bit, and I don't know. It was a tough weekend, but I was really happy with the changes that we made throughout the race to get it competitive. And I feel like at the end of the race, we were halfway decent. So just really proud of everybody there, and was really happy to salvage a 24th out of it.
Yeah, you mentioned it was a tough weekend. Just like you said, it was you did get a 24th finish out of it. How were you feeling leaving the track?
I was happy with the finish. Obviously, as a driver, you want to run a little better. I got all the faith in the world on my team, though, and just it was my first time working with our new crew chief, and I felt like the changes that we made, I was actually really proud of, and just being able to have the trust in my crew chief that he can make that happen throughout the race. It was a positive. You always want to run better, so we're going to go to Pocono, load it up, and hopefully get a top 20 there.
Heck yeah, hopefully you can keep that momentum going. Nashville was your third top 25 finish in a row. In all of your starts so far this year, you started 30th and on back, but all of your finishes, besides just one, have been in the 20s. What has been your key to the consistency and gaining that track position?
Yeah, I think part of it is just experience and our restarts, having to know when to be aggressive. And I don't know, when you get a sense of something maybe bad about to happen, you kind of back off and let it happen. It's just bringing the car home. And I feel like I've always done a really good job with that. And we've been doing that. So now, I feel like we need to work on the speed a little bit. So once we do that, I feel like we'll be good to go and be finishing in the high teens, hopefully. And I got all the faith in the world in my team. I know everyone at Alpha Prime is working super hard. We'll get it figured out soon for sure.
Awesome. Sounds like a good combination you got over there in Alpha Prime. Last question in non-racing. You've spoken out about awareness, about stuttering. That is something that my brother and I have dealt with our whole lives and continue to work on, especially when recording this show. Thank you for bringing more awareness to people that stutter. And what has that journey meant to you?
It's been interesting. honestly, before I spoke out about it, really didn't ever talk to anybody about it. I just honestly tried to hide it for, I'd say, most of my life. And you know how it is through the teen years. It's a hard thing when you're trying to make friends and you're learning a lot about yourself in that time, and you feel kind of different because you have a stutter, and you don't hardly meet anybody else that has a stutter, so you kind of think you're the only one. So it can be hard during all the teen years and when you're young, but as I've gotten older, I just felt like I wanted to speak about it, and I wanted to help people see that even if you do have a challenge like this, you can still follow your dreams. And I always tried to not let it hold me back, and honestly feel like it's the reason I made it here to where I am. So I just wanted to help people, and it was really cool after I spoke out about it. Actually had a lot of DMs from people who have a stutter, and they wanted to have a phone conversation, wanted to talk about it, and I was happy to do that. So it was really cool to talk to people and to learn about other people that have a stutter and what they go through in their life and what they do. And I'm really happy I spoke out, and I've been able to meet a lot of cool people because of it.
Yeah, like I was just saying before we got on the call, that just dealing with that throughout our whole lives, you see too many people, especially in sports and stuff. So really cool that you spoke out about that. Really appreciate that. And being from New Jersey, can't wait to see you at the track in Pocono. I'll be there the whole weekend, and really appreciate you having on the show again.
Hey man, I appreciate it. I'll be at Pocono, so looking forward to seeing you there, man.
Yeah, sounds great. I'll see you on the track, and safe travels then. All right.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, you too. Thanks, Mason.
Thanks.
What a fantastic interview with Mason Massey. That will be up on my YouTube page as well. Now for the Cup Series recap. Cup Series will complete the weekend with the nightcap on Sunday evening in Nashville. Chase Briscoe would be on the pole, followed by teammate Denny Hamlin making up the front row. Once the green flag would drop, Briscoe would get the jump on Hamlin and take the lead. Hamlin would be hot on his tail, but Briscoe would prevail. Starting the first pit cycle, Chase Briscoe would pit on lap 40. After the cycle, Penske's of Ryan Blaney and Austin Cindric would stay out and be left out front. Late in the stage, Toyotas of Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, and Ty Gibbs would radio to their crew chiefs, all complaining about brake issues. With 20 laps to go in the first stage, Blaney and Cindric would pit. Briscoe would take back the lead, followed by Hamlin and Byron. With 8 laps to go in stage 1, Hamlin would get past Briscoe for the lead. A lap later, Tyler Reddick would pass Chase Briscoe for second. Denny Hamlin would go on to win the first stage. Blaney and Cindric would restart on the front row for stage 2. Blaney would get the jump and take the lead. 14 laps into the second stage, Hamlin would get past Austin Cindric for the second spot. Yellow would fly on lap 106 for a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. crash after he would get bumped by Carson Hocevar. More on that incident on Discussions with Dave. Hamlin and Cindric on the front row for the restart. Hamlin would prevail and lead again. Lap 114, another yellow would fly for a wreck involving Noah Gragson, Alex Bowman, also collecting Kyle Larson. Pack would restart on lap 119, again Hamlin and Cindric on the front row, but they wouldn't even make it a lap. Christopher Bell would go spinning after battling Eric Jones for position. Again, Hamlin and Cindric would restart. Hamlin would prevail and be leading. Fourth yellow of the second stage would happen on lap 130 for an incident involving Corey Heim and Brad Keselowski. What a wreck fest the second stage would turn into. They would restart again on lap 137. Hamlin and Blaney leading for this one. Again, Hamlin would lead. With 19 laps to go in the second stage, William Byron would pass pass Blaney and start battling Hamlin for the lead. The trio would go 3 wide and all would take turns at the lead, but Blaney would be prevailing in the front spot. Ryan Blaney would hold his ground and win the second stage. Joey Logano and Blaney would restart for the final stage, but a couple laps in, a yellow would fly again for spinning Ryan Preece this time. Logano and Blaney on the restart. Blaney would get the jump and take the lead. Eric Jones would be in a fierce battle with Joey Logano. Joey would eventually clear him for second. With about 85 to go, Hamlin would get past Logano for the second spot. Blaney would still be out front. As the laps counted down, we would inch closer to the final round of pit stops. Who would make the first move? Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell would start that cycle with 55 laps to go. When would the leaders pit? 3 laps later, Blaney would pit from the lead. 45 laps to go, Hamlin would pit from the lead. When Hamlin would re-enter the track, he would be 8 seconds behind Ryan Blaney. Brad Keselowski would be the last to pit, completing the pit cycle. With 31 laps to go, Blaney would retake the lead. Carson Hocevar in second and Hamlin in the third spot. 15 laps to go. Blaney still out in front. Hocevar starts to fade in second, more on the oldest tires of the top 3. 5 laps to go. Ryan Blaney would have over a 3-second lead over Carson Hocevar in second. Hamlin would not be able to pass him and stay in third. The rest of the race would stay green, and Ryan Blaney would get his first win of the season. Congrats to the 12 team. Now a quick look back at the predictions we made for Nashville. Trucks had Corey Heim. He finished second. Xfinity went with Eric Amarola. He brings it home 6th. Cup tapped William Byron. He was there at the end, but ends up finishing 5th. Now for yellow flag, green flag. Trucks, yellow. Frankie Malcolm in the middle, leaks fluid all over the track early and has to retire. Fortunately, Frankie has some of the worst mechanical luck this year. Hope he can turn it around. Trucks, green. That drive that Roger Caruth had off those turns would bring him his second win. Spectacular driving and a great game plan from that Spire team. Congrats to Raja. Xfinity yellow. After being on the pole, William Sawalich would spin out in the third stage. That would eventually end his day. Xfinity green. Junior Motorsports. They finished first and second with Allgaier and Connor Zilisch. Cup yellow. Rough day for Ty Gibbs. Another sub-30 finish won't help him in the standings. Cup green. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won't want to hear this, but yellow for another P2 finish from Carson Hocevar. Totally get that he was probably a little bit too aggressive early there, which unfortunately Ricky gets caught up in and ends his day. But Carson backs it up with a second place finish. Only a matter of time before Carson parks it in victory lane. Now, discussions with Dave. Our first topic on DWD this week, off day for Corey Heim. I still say a success with a P2 finish, Cup Series 2026. With how fast Heim has been this year at the truck level, and with his Kansas Cup level finish of 13th, we know he will be back in the Cup seat several times before the end of this year. In Nashville, unfortunate his day ends with a wreck. Seems like we are just seeing the start of the bloom of Corey Heim, though. Yes, as good as he's been in the truck level this year, he's had his ups and his downs. But he still currently has 4 wins. Thought he would continue his winning ways in Nashville. He was leading for a portion and always in the mix. But, as Charlie Daniels said in Stroke a Race, a man can't win them all. Roger Caruth just had the better long-run truck Friday, and that's racing sometimes. Still strongly believe that Heim is the championship favorite, and you can see that with the point standings. Corey will learn from nights like this when he maybe doesn't have the fastest long-run truck, but has one that can be in the top 3. What can he and Tricon do with the remainder of the schedule? I believe a lot. With Heim's dominance at the truck level this year and the last several years, with his contract now with 23XI as their development driver, plus his handful of Cup starts he has this year, 2026, Corey Heim is destined for the Cup Series. And that should be with 23XI Racing. And we're already looking at 2026 silly season. I know it's early, but right now 23XI has 3 full-time drivers: Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Riley Herbst. The only one of those 3 that isn't under contract for next year is Riley Herbst. Is 23XI Racing going to buy another charter, or will they not bring back Herbst? Not a knock on Riley at all, but comparing Heim to Herbst, Heim, prospect-wise, is the better of the 2. Truthfully believe that Heim does have the higher upside. We will see what happens as we inch closer to 2026, but time will only tell. Now for the second topic on Discussions with Dave: Hocevar versus Stenhouse, the Bubble Watch. As mentioned in the recap, and if you were watching the race Sunday night, Carson Hocevar racing Ricky Stenhouse Jr. back in the pack. I believe it was 17th or something in the late teens. Hocevar for a couple laps, as you can hear Stenhouse say in the post-race interview, and if you just watched the recap, Hocevar for several laps was really hounding Stenhouse and getting to the back of his bumper and crowding him and racing hard for that position. And as we saw, Carson got a little bit too close to him and spins Ricky right into the wall, crashing Ricky out, ending his day. For a driver like Stenhouse and with a single car team like Hayek Motorsports, where they are in the point standings right now is really overachieving for them. And halfway through the regular season, where they are point standings, they can totally be a playoff team. But races like what just happened to them in Nashville are things that are going to eat away at that points that they've worked so hard to earn. And watching the replay several times, it was an over aggressive move, especially at that moment and point in the race. It wasn't egregious. It wasn't a Austin Dillon Richmond type thing by any means. And yes, Carson, this is his second year in the series. He's still learning. As a race fan, I was a little surprised that Stenhouse didn't get up in his face or cause a ruckus to Hocevar after that happened once the race finished. I do believe that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at some point before the end of this season is going to pay Carson that favor back. And I think Carson is well aware that that's going to happen at some point. And Carson, the way he races, the way he's raced his career, he has to live with those things. But what we've seen from Carson this year, he isn't backing down. And that's what makes him, yes, he might, as Kyle Petty said, and these comments I do really agree, Carson Hocevar is a feather ruffler. He gets under the skin of some guys. It's nothing egregious, but it's enough to, he ain't no 3, and I don't know if he's trying to rattle cages already or this early in his career, but he's using his bumper, and right now he's got 2 P2 finishes. Yes, he's really going to need Hocevar a win to get into the playoffs this year, but can he get that? I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Might be a little bit of a long shot, especially just in his second year, but we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, and definitely something to watch between Hocevar and Stenhouse as the season moves along. Now, for the next topic on Discussions with Dave. Last episode, I was talking about the pros and cons of NASCAR doing the 5-race deal with Amazon Prime. I'm pretty sure I didn't mention it, but Amazon is offering a 30-day free trial of Prime, and those 5 races fit right in that 30-day trial. So NASCAR and Amazon are really doing everything they can to promote their joint venture. The coverage has been, in all honesty, above Fox and the other networks. I've always complained, to myself about all the commercials they have on Fox, and I keep that to myself because without those sponsors and commercials, there wouldn't be the racing. So it's something that you just have to deal with, right? But Prime, yes, they do have the commercials, but they have the split screen. Yes, it's not the sound, I get it. But if there's a wreck or something during a commercial on Fox, you have to watch the replay. Prime does have that live there, so thumbs up to that. And do just want to reiterate to the people that are, don't want to pay to watch the 5 races this year, it's free. Amazon is letting you have a free 30-day free trial, so there's no reasons to complain about price on this one. So just wanted to touch that one last time. Sorry for beating on a drum about the Amazon Prime stuff. Now for the last topic on Discussions with Dave, more silly season news. Corey LaJoie will return to Spire Motorsports to run the number 07 Chevy Silverado for 9 of the remaining 13 truck races, beginning with Saturday's truck race in Michigan. Good to see Corey back in the truck seat. Think will be good for him. Really don't see why he couldn't grab a win in one of those 9 races. And that wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. Now for NASCAR history time. Michigan. The first NASCAR Premier Series race at MIS was the Motor State 500, June 15th, 1969. It was all Hall of Famers up front, as Cal Yarborough would win in the Wood Brothers car, and followed in second and third were Pearson and Petty. The first race in 69, just 16 of the 38 cars entered were running at the finish. The bulk of those DNFs were results of engine failures at the fast, high-banked 2-mile oval. Not only are the cars more reliable nowadays, they're much safer and faster too. Donnie Allison won the pole in that 69 race at a speed of 160 miles an hour. The current MIS track record belongs to Jeff Gordon, who in 2014 put down a blistering qualifying lap of over 106 miles an hour. That wraps up this week's edition of NASCAR History Time. Now, this brings us to our second driver guest of the show, Truck Series driver Tyler Tomassi. Next driver we have is Tyler Tomassi, who races with Leone Brothers in the Truck Series. Thanks for joining the show, Tyler.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Before we get into the on-track action, you make your Truck Series debut last year with Leone Brothers at IRP. I know it was just one race with them last year, but how is it going back to them this year for select starts?
So last year I was very fortunate to be able to make a one-off start with them, and I was honestly really positive. And this year I was really excited to head back there just because, even though I made one start with them, I had a really long relationship with them, trying to make something happen with them for years. So to come back and run, well, it was supposed to be 2 and ended up being 3 starts because we ended up adding Wilkesboro. It was really fun to go back to them with people I'm comfortable with and, work with Josh and all those great people over there. And it was honestly a really good experience and hoping to do more with them later this year.
Awesome. Thank you for touching on that. You were in the Xfinity car for Martinsville with MBM. Qualifying, unfortunately, didn't go as planned. But after the practice, any differences from the truck to the Xfinity car?
The Xfinity car it feels, there's less downforce. Like the trucks, it feels like you can drive them so hard. It feels like a stock. If a stock car was an F1 car, that's what it would be, the truck, with how gripped up they are. The Xfinity car, you have to be a lot more easier in and easier out. You can get there's a lot more movement. The car just moves around more. I personally like driving them a lot more because I just like driving something that has horsepower and a lot of movement rather than just smash the gas. But they're honestly both pretty fun to drive. But the biggest thing I would say is just aero. Just the trucks are more aero dependent.
Okay, cool. Appreciate you touching on that. Was interested.
Your first truck start this year was at Bristol. This is the first time you were returning to a track at the Truck Series level for your second time. You come out with a P21 finish after starting 31st. Did that boost your confidence?
Yeah, definitely, especially since we had no practice or qualifying. I think that it showed that I could race. We had really good speed. We unfortunately had a bit of a hiccup on pit road. I slid a little too far and then put us behind, so put us a lap down on pit road after we just got the wave around. I think we had about like 18th place speed, a little better. I definitely top 20, but yeah, I think my prior experience there helped me with kind of without us having practice and just a green racetrack. I feel like it actually gave me an advantage because I kind of knew what I was doing already. It just really raised my confidence because it just kind of showed that I could race and keep up with some good cars. And, I wasn't just riding around in the back by myself, right? Like we were racing the whole race. So it definitely helped a lot with that and learned a lot.
Gotcha. Sounds like it'll set you up for the rest of this year. Wasn't the grandstand... Cool. Awesome. Wasn't the grandstands at North Wilkesboro? That was one of the coolest tracks I've ever been to. How was that experience and the track?
Well, the experience was cool until we had a lot of issues, but the track it's just a good short track. It's really interesting how the line is in 1 and 2. Like the line you run there is just really unique. 3 and 4 is completely different than 1 and 2. It's really was fun. It was hot, really hot, really slick. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately we had, some alternator issues where the alternator switch got popped down and we died on the backstretch, which put us, I think, 12 laps down, 40 laps in. So, kind of sucked a little to just kind of ride around with nobody to really race. And then we blew a right front. But before then, I mean, the track's really fun. I honestly think we probably would have gotten another top 25 if that didn't happen. It definitely suit my style.
Awesome. Yeah, going there for the first time, seeing like the downhill going from 1 to 2 and then uphill from 3 to 4 was really cool. I could only would imagine what it was from the truck cockpit. Yeah,
no, definitely. Like I said, 1 and 2 is absolutely nothing like 3 and 4, and it's a really unique racetrack. I don't think there's any. There's tracks with lines that are different, but 1 and 2 is kind of like RIP, and then 3 and 4 is just like, I guess, any other short track, so it was unique.
Awesome. Thanks for breaking that down. Diving into Nashville, qualifying gets rained out, but they have the practice session. How is the truck feeling going into the green flag?
Yeah, so honestly, I was happy that qualifying got canceled because we went from having 25 minutes to 50 minutes of practice, so and we kind of started probably better than what we would have qualified anyway. So I wasn't really upset about that. Practice, we honestly started off not very good at all. We were way too tight, and we were honestly a little out to lunch to start with. But we honestly used that entire 50-minute practice, and we changed so much. By the end of it was a completely different race car. I went from plowing tight to, I was able – it was weird. We made the car, we freed it up so much that if you hit the gas, it actually made it turn, which helped us. So by the time practice was over, I was really confident going into the race. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks for those details. You finished stage 1, 29th, 30th in the second stage. You come out with a P29 finish. How are we going to use the experience from Nashville for the next time that you'll be back in the truck seat?
Well, yeah, even though we were in the back most of the race, I honestly learned a lot. Me and the 02, 63, 2, and the 5 and I were basically dogfighting it the entire race. I don't think I really that was the hardest I've ever fought for 29th. But I learned a lot. Just honestly, the biggest thing I learned was how to manipulate the air, right? Like when I'm behind somebody, how to make my car from not getting tight, how to run a little bit of a different line, even though it might not be the fastest way around, how to side draft, how to hold guys off, how to, play those games where you give the guy behind you dirty air and take his line away. I learned a lot, even though maybe it wasn't for up front. Like I said, we honestly were probably racing harder than the leaders there at one point for 29th. So, the biggest thing I took away from it is just learning the air, but also how to give feedback. Because by myself, my car was super loose, right? The truck was super loose, and I was like, we need to tighten it up. And my crew chief's like, no, you need to loosen it up. And I thought he was crazy, but when you get behind someone, suddenly you go from being loose to tight. So it's just kind of unique how you need to adjust based on your positioning on track and all that stuff.
Awesome. I appreciate you going through those aerodynamic aspects. Last question. You have some news about the next time that you'll be back in the truck seat?
Yeah, so I'm going to be racing Pocono here in, I think, about 17 or 16 days on June 20th with MBM. We're going to be rolling out a truck for that race. So going to be the biggest track that I've ever been to, but I think, Nashville definitely helped. I think Pocono will suit my style in terms of kind of short tracky corners, right? But the straightaways will kind of play into that drafting stuff I learned. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Excited to go 180 miles an hour for the first time and, go to another cool new place.
Yeah. Excited to see you out the track. Pocono's been a track that I've been going to since I was a young kid, so we'll be out there for the Truck Series race. Can't wait to see you, and thanks so much for joining the show.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep, talk to you soon.
Really interesting to hear Tyler break down the aerodynamic and drafting aspects of racing that he was getting more equipped to and learning more at Nashville. Appreciate his time. Now for the drivers to look out for Michigan, ARCA Series. Points leader and driver we had on a few episodes ago, LeVar Scott. He should be fast in Michigan. Gio Ruggiero is back in the ARCA seat for Joe Gibbs Racing in the 18. He will be a contender for sure. Those Venturini cars are typically up front. Lawless Allen, Isabella Robusto. Plus, Jake Finch is back in the ARCA seat. Look out for that trio. 28 of Brandon Butterbean Queen will be competing for wins every race. Can he shake off a tough day in Charlotte 2 weeks ago? Don't count out Cole Raz, Andy Jankowiak, and Jason Kitzmiller. Drivers to look out for Michigan, Truck Series. With the Xfinity Series off this weekend, trucks will be on Fox on Saturday afternoon. Here are the drivers to look out for. We mentioned him last weekend, and he went on to win. Can Roger Carruth keep the momentum up after last weekend? Expect him to be in the top 10, and expect him to contend late. Corey LaJoie will be in the 07 Chevy for Spire in Michigan. Can he be up front? Corey Heim, look out for him, of course, but do not count out his teammate, Gio Ruggiero. He's been hot recently. After a P11 finish in Nashville, can Dawson Sutton back that up with a top 10? As much as we've been talking about Corey Heim, we should really be talking about Chandler Smith and, of course, Chandler's teammate, Lane Riggs. Those two have been really ready to strike the last couple races. Ross Chastain and Carson Hocevar will each be back in the truck seat. Could they each steal a win in the Irish Hills? We will see. Drivers to look out for Michigan, Cup Series. Of course, got the heavy hitters of Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, all ready to strike. Well, of course, we cannot forget Denny Hamlin. He can make it happen anytime at MIR. Maybe a Michigan driver, Brad Kay, Eric Jones, or even a Carson Hocevar, locals who have been racing in the late model series since they got into town earlier this week. Can they make it happen? We will see. Please don't forget about Tyler Reddick, Riley Herbst, and of course Chase Briscoe and those Toyotas. Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney will be ready to strike in the forts. Now for Fast Davey's bets. Trucks, Lane Riggs is plus 800 to win, and Corey LaJoie is plus 1,000 to win in the Truck Series. Not bad odds and some money to make on Saturday. Cup Series for Fast Davey's bets, plus 550 odds for Eric Jones for a top 5. Don't think that's too out of the ordinary for him. Now for trivia answer time. This week's question is, with Ross Chastain's win last weekend from the 40th starting position, it was the first time a driver won from the 40th starting spot since this Hall of Fame driver did it at the Richmond Fairgrounds in 1969. Answer is Alabama gang driver Bobby Allison. Now, for our predictions for Michigan Truck Series, Corey Heim could totally walk away with this one. But I think it's Ross Chastain's time to take the Truck Series trophy in the Irish Hills. ARCA Series, right after Trucks, Gio Ruggiero is going to walk away with this one on Saturday afternoon, in my opinion, folks. Cup, give me the 11 versus the world. Think Hamlin gets this one done and takes all of his competitors down. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He'll be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He'd be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow up with all the Splash of Gas social medias for on-track and midweek updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Thank you so much for everyone listening. Can't wait till next time. Splash of Gas out.